Hello and welcome to One Cool Thing, PC Mag's daily show where we show you one cool thing which we are testing out here in the PC Mag Labs. I'm Sasha Sieg and this is Tom Brandt. I'm very excited by our product today, but first, if you are on Facebook Live, and I hope you are because I really want us to talk about this product, if you are on Facebook Live, then please ask questions, make comments. Social Pete, who is over there relative to me, not relative to you wherever you are, Social Pete will read out the questions and comments. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Consider coming over to Facebook at 10 a.m. Eastern on weekdays to participate in our show. Now, why am I so excited by today's product?
Yeah, it's just a laptop.
Right, it is the Asus NovaGo, which is one of those funny named products like the Chevy Nova, where you're like, oh, does it mean exploding star or does it mean doesn't go in Spanish? But in any case, both. I'm very excited because this is the first Qualcomm Snapdragon Windows laptop which we have tested. It is a new architecture for Windows laptops. How often do you see that?
Well, when you say new architecture, it's new this year, but there have always been, not always, there have long been ARM-powered Windows machines. That's what this is. But
I refuse to acknowledge the abomination that was Windows RT. We are throwing that down the memory hole. It didn't happen. It didn't exist.
See, we could go one of two ways with explaining this thing. We could start off with Windows RT and talk about emulation and things like that, which we should do a little bit later on. But let's first start by saying that the point of this Asus NovaGo is that thanks to this Qualcomm Snapdragon processor, it offers amazing battery life, like days of battery life without plugging it in, better than even a smartphone.
Days.
And it has a built-in LTE modem that offers, at least when I tested it, better speeds than my home Wi-Fi connection. So that's really the two amazing things that they've done here. And although you can't buy it yet, it's relatively cheap. It starts at $600 in the US.
Okay. So let's start by talking about the days of battery life. What do you mean by days of battery life? Because when we were talking earlier, you said that standard battery life tests may not even properly measure the battery life on this thing.
Yes. So this is kind of a Toyota Prius situation. Essentially, it does better on real-world computing scenarios like streaming Netflix or web browsing, typing on in Word, in Microsoft Word, than it does on our battery test, which you'd think would be easier. It's essentially just playing a local video file with all the Wi-Fi turned off until it dies. This thing is actually better at what Intel processors are worse at, which is frequent multitasking and things like that. So I took this home on a Friday evening and I spent an entire weekend, as I normally do, occasionally watching videos, checking email, Facebook, things like that. I walked back into the lab yesterday morning and it was at 47% battery life.
Okay, so let's go down the specs, configs, and ports on this $600 Asus NovaGo laptop.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a convertible design. It can go like this as a laptop, or it can go like this as a easel, or it can become a tablet like this. It has this unit right here, which actually won't go on sale, has 6 gigabytes of memory and 128 gigabyte SSD, but you will probably be considering the base model, which has 4 gigabytes of memory and a 64 gigabyte SSD, and I'll explain why you don't need a lot of memory a bit later on. Then we've got USB ports here, as well as the power jack. No USB-C though, this is only USB 3. And then we've got an HDMI, an SD card slot, some volume and power supply buttons, and
a SIM card
slot.
Now let's talk about the SIM card situation here. Now when you buy this, first of all, is it tied to a carrier? Do you have to buy it from a carrier? Is it locked to a carrier? Is your carrier going to smother you with a plastic bag? Like, how horrifying is the carrier situation?
So Asus says that it will be available on all 4 major mobile carriers in the US. We have a T-Mobile SIM in here, which is what it was shipped to us with. But what we do know is that you can put any SIM card or micro SIM card you want in it. What we don't know yet is how much you're going to be paying other than a standard adding a line or adding a device to your current plan.
So you can so it is compatible with SIM cards from all the major
Yes.
carriers, and it's sold unlocked.
It's not sold at all yet, but it will be unlocked once it goes on sale, and they're saying it's going to start selling on May 1st.
Okay, okay. And in here is a Qualcomm X16 modem, which is the second most advanced modem available. It's the modem from the Galaxy S8 series, which is a very good LTE modem.
Yeah, indeed, it is capable of gigabit speeds. There's a couple other models powered by this processor and GPU combo that are upcoming, including the HP Envy X2, which we're very excited about. It's a tablet. That one doesn't quite have the gigabit speeds, but when I was using it over the past couple days, I never actually got gigabit speeds, mainly because I was testing it in New York City, which is warren of competing wireless signals. But I did get download speeds consistently around 100 megabits per second, megabits per second, which is very good. It's a tenth of what it's capable of, but it's still faster than most Wi-Fi connections.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the most intriguing, most confusing, possibly most disappointing aspect of the system, which is that this is running Windows. And as we all know, primarily for the past 30 years, Windows and all Windows programs have been coded in the language of Intel's x86 processors. Now, that means over history, if you want to run a full copy of Windows, which supports all third-party software, then you need to have a processor that speaks the x86 language, or you need to run a translation layer to translate or emulate the x86 commands into whatever your processor's native commands are. The Qualcomm Snapdragon processor is an ARM processor. It is not x86. And this restriction is part of why Windows RT was so bad. Windows RT, which ran on ARM processors, was hideously bad because it only ran a strictly limited number of programs which were coded for ARM processors. But Qualcomm says they've cracked that code, and they can now run pretty much anything, but how well does it run?
Yeah, so it can run anything. So in addition to x86, you also have to look at 32-bit and 64-bit apps. Microsoft and Qualcomm say that 95% of apps are currently available in 32-bit apps, or in the 32-bit version, which means that it will run on this machine. The only apps that won't run are apps that are only in 64-bit, and that's about 5% of the apps that are currently available. However, the majority of those 32-bit apps, as Sasha was saying, are designed for Intel processors. And so what they've done is they've created a built-in emulator that fools the app into thinking it's running on Intel. The developer doesn't have to do anything. The app just simply thinks it's running, but there's a big caveat with that, which is that it feels sluggish and slow.
So now, does this now? So Windows itself is native.
Mm-hmm.
What other applications are native to ARM? And did you find a difference in performance between the ARM native applications and the Intel emulated applications?
Yes. So the answer to both questions is yes. The second thing, there is a big difference between the emulated apps and the native apps, which is what you'd expect, right? But the problem is that even the native apps, things such as the Edge web browser or the Photos app or Minecraft or the calculator, even those run very slow. It's almost as if you're using a Intel Celeron powered machine from 3 years ago that has a bunch of bloatware on it. It's like wading through muck. Actually, Edge, several times while I was browsing through Google Maps or other resource-intensive websites, it actually hung. It didn't crash, but it was there for like 30 seconds doing nothing.
I have some speculation about why this is and what this has to do with Qualcomm's philosophy versus Intel's philosophy and the Windows philosophy. And you know what? I'm just going to tell you all. Do we have any questions, by the way, or is this just me giving a monologue? Okay, this is me giving a monologue.
Hello
Heck
to
yeah.
our 2 viewers out there who care about ARM and x86.
Heck yeah. Okay. So Qualcomm's processors, there's a conventional wisdom that Qualcomm processors are designed for power efficiency and Intel processors are designed for processing power. And so as a result, that's why you don't see a lot of Intel in phones where you need power efficiency, and you don't see a lot of Qualcomm in laptops where you need processing power. But it's more complicated than that, especially now. Qualcomm has made a really heavy move recently towards something called heterogeneous computing. And heterogeneous computing uses many different aspects of a system on a chip to do customized tasks. So Qualcomm has a CPU on the X16, but they also have some very important DSPs. Their Hexagon DSP. They have a custom image processing chip. They have a custom sound chip. They have all of these different chips which do different things.
Right, but not necessarily what you would think. Like the processor can offload some sort of instructions to the GPU, which wouldn't happen in Intel, but
But here's the problem, okay? A lot of Windows applications and Windows in general is designed to be very heavy on the CPU and GPU and not necessarily to optimize itself for heterogeneous computing.
Yeah.
So as a result, Intel chipsets are basically just a CPU and a GPU and some little atrophied components around them. It's not the sort of kind of equal partners you see in Qualcomm. And Windows is designed for that kind of computing structure.
Yeah.
And so as a result, we're leaning really heavily on the somewhat underpowered CPU component of the X16 chip. And as a result, this feels kind of slow.
Right, but we do know that Microsoft is working on this. There are no devices on sale yet, so they're still frantically trying to comb through pages and pages of code to try to figure out how to best make these emulated apps work faster, possibly by offloading some of these instructions to the rest of the Qualcomm SoC.
Right, how to optimize them for what turns out to be a different philosophy of chip making than they've been experiencing with Intel for decades.
And that right there is the key difference between Windows RT and this thing, which is that if they are successful, if they do what they've set out to do, this could really catch on and change things for people that use laptops in that way, which is occasionally they don't need a lot of processing power. But if they can solve that sluggishness issue and they can increase compatibility, so you don't need to worry about what app you're.
The eternal battery life is just awesome.
Then this has far more promise than anything like it that we've seen. I think.
Let's take some questions.
Can you just recap the release date details and price and things like that?
Okay, so this is the Asus NovaGo. It's probably going to be the first laptop powered by this thing in the US, and they're saying this is going to go on sale in May. I believe May 1st, but don't hold me to that, and probably don't hold them to that either. It's going to start at $600 for a 4 GB memory and 64 GB hard drive, or you can step up to the other model, which is $800 for an 8 GB memory and 256 GB hard drive. But like I said before, you're not going to necessarily need those 8 GB of memory because the bottleneck really is the processor and the emulation on it. So that doubling that memory might not be a good use of your money. That said, though, if you're primarily interested in the battery life, there's going to be some other systems coming out with this same combo of Qualcomm processor. That's the HP Envy X2 detachable tablet and the Lenovo Meeks 600 series detachable tablet.
Okay, let's take another question.
What's the screen size?
I think this is a 13-inch screen.
This has got to be in the review, right?
I'm pretty sure it's a 13-inch screen. Yeah, go down to the NovaGo section, to the standard. It's pretty much a standard laptop that happens to be able to go like this. Keep going.
Where are we?
There we go. 13.3
inches, 1920 by 1080 screen.
Yeah, so it's a good screen. It's pretty bright. We have it at maximum brightness right now. The two things I don't like about the physical design: one, the backlit. There's no backlight on the keyboard, which we typically see now. Two, there is no USB-C port, which is becoming common now on even laptops that cost half as much as this. And I guess the third one would be that relatively heavy. It's like over 3 pounds, which 3 years ago would have been really light, but we've seen many more powered laptops that are lighter than this.
So now our review up on our website is not a review with a rating and recommendation, right?
Yes, and that is because we have a system that is not going to go on sale here in the US. They've sent us a middle version with 6 gigabytes of memory and 128 gigabyte SSD that they're not going to sell here. And so we can't actually, give it a full star review yet because we haven't seen that version.
But can we make a rough statement about whether or not we recommend this, or we recommend that people wait for the second generation?
I think what you should do is you should wait for a detachable tablet.
Okay.
Because if this ends up working out the way that they want it to, my sense is that you will be most able to use it best in a tablet form factor. Akin to an Android or iPad tablet. And so my recommendation is to wait for, yes, A, once they've worked out some of the emulation kinks, and B, once they've come out with a Windows tablet. That, it's probably, because it just feels like you should be getting more power when you're using a laptop. When you're using a tablet, you might be using the touchscreen. Your sluggishness isn't going to be as much of an issue because you're not mousing around. Your input is slower anyway.
Let's take another question.
Are most of the ARM-equipped computers ultra portables? Are there anything in like larger like desktop replacements?
No, and that's because people looking for desktop replacements are generally looking for more processing power than ARM chips are able to provide right now. The advantage of the ARM chips is extremely long battery life, cool running, and lightweight. And so that says it goes into an ultra portable. Yep. Once you get to larger, more powerful machines, you're just simply asking for the ability to process more instructions per second than the ARM chips are capable of right now.
Right, and this is remarkable. I mean, you cannot hear this thing at all. There is no electronic noise from the CPU, which sometimes cheaper laptops suffer from. Obviously, there's no hard drive noise. There's no fan. There is nothing in here. It feels like using a tablet, which is what I said you should wait for it to become a tablet.
Yeah, and there's no fan because this is the same Snapdragon 835 that you find in top-of-the-line smartphones like the Galaxy S8. But they have so much more room. So they can vent it. They can run it hot and vent it because they're used to functioning in this much space. Now they have this much space.
But I don't know for sure, but I think though that they don't actually. I mean, they tweak it a little bit, but running hot, I don't think is something that really the 835 can do. I mean, it's not.
You can run anything hot.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
I have that app. Do we have any more questions out there? Okay. So this is the Asus NovaGo. It's the first of the current generation of Qualcomm Snapdragon Windows laptop devices, which we have seen. This is not the US sales model. We will have a final review of the US sales model before it goes on sale in May, hopefully. There will be other Qualcomm Snapdragon laptops, such as the HP Envy X2, something from Lenovo too, right?
The Meeks 600
Okay,
series. Yes.
There we go.
Meeks.
A bunch of those will be coming through the labs over the next 2 months. We will be reviewing them. It's an intriguing first generation 1.0 of a new laptop concept, which could really bring people advantages. So stay tuned on PCMag.com and at One Cool Thing for more about this new generation and this new form of Windows laptops. This has been One Cool Thing with PCMag.com. If you are on Facebook, thank you for watching. We will be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow with another cool thing. If you are on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Check back on our channel daily, and we will keep having more cool things for you.